Okay, and our next segment, moving along, is Through the Eyes of Katniss Everdeen, and this is going to be pretty much our main segment, going along with the news. And we're going to be analyzing the books by chapters, and we summarize what happened in the chapter along with interpretations of the chapters, or the characters within the chapter, foreshadowing future events, and our thoughts, questions, and comments. In future episodes, we will probably each do one an episode. I'll be doing even, and Matt will be doing odd. But since this is our first, we're just going to start with chapter 1. So, to jump right into it, we open the whole series in chapter 1 of Hunger Games with Katniss waking up and mentions the reaping. So, do you think this was a good way to grip people into the book?
I think, well, if you're writing a story like this, it's called The Hunger Games, so it's going to have a big after title. You want to know what that's about.
Right.
And it's already going into showing who Katniss is. Saying that she's not this little mushy girl who does things, who just wheezes into things. She says it like it is, and that's how she feels about it. It's not really giving a sense of, well, they have this reaping thing that goes on every year. No, it's a reaping that you can pick for against your will. You cannot decline it.
Right, but at the beginning of the chapter, I think it's the first page, she just says the reaping. So it's kind of like, I guess, would you say you're like automatically intrigued? Like, what is this reaping? Like, what is she doing? Like,
that could be a method that Susan Collins was trying to put in.
Right.
Saying that, well, here's a reaping. Well, what's the reaping? Continue
you're automatically hooked in, kind of like you want to know more information.
You don't want to give too much information, but you don't want to give too little.
Right.
So.
What do you think would have made a better start? I mean, I thought that was a pretty good start. Like the whole first chapter really it puts you right in in their world, but at the same time they're not giving you too much information that you're confused on what's happening. I thought that it was pretty like as series go, it's definitely far up there in beginnings, you know.
If I was to start the story like that, that is, like you said, that's a great way to start the story. And I don't think there would be a better way because you're automatically showing Katniss as a character.
And you're introducing so many characters, but it flows nicely. You know, all the main characters.
I mean, if you could.
Peeta.
Yeah. If you could start out Katniss in the woods with Gale, that's just too many things going on at once. Because you have Katniss talking about her love for being in the woods. Then you have Gale there, who she has to mention is her best friend. It's just too much information going on.
Right.
It's just a better way to keep the reader interested.
And so Katniss describes her family and how Buttercup is another mouth to feed. So right away we see that she has a different role in the family, and she takes on the responsibility a parent would normally. And so up until she mentions her long dark braid, did you think she was a boy?
No.
No.
I absolutely did not think that.
I kind of thought she was a boy because she didn't say anything she didn't say her name. So, you know, Katniss is like, okay, that's not a boy. But up until it was the second page, near the top, I thought she was a boy. Just the way she was kind of relating, and I guess because she's just so tough, I guess. So I don't know if anybody else thought that. I don't know if I'm just the only weird one here, but.
I understand where you're coming from with that, but then again, the name just gives you right away Katniss.
But she didn't say her name until like, I don't know, third page, I think. It's second or third page. Like, she talked about her long dark braid before she said her name, so.
Okay.
Well, yeah.
I'll have to
maybe we'll put that up as a poll or something on the website. Did you think Katniss was a boy?
Alright.
Probably not. So when the father is introduced, it is sudden and startling, while at the same time to the point, and it lacked emotion and was just informative. The passage was, "My father knew and he taught me some before he was blown into bits in a mine explosion. There was nothing even to bury. I was 11 then. 5 years later, I still wake up screaming for him to run." So right after finding about her father, Katniss goes right back into explaining about the woods. So I think that right away kind of showed a lot about her character. So what did you see? Like, what did you notice in her character when you read this?
Well, looking at that, it kind of shows that aspect of her father is Katniss's weakness.
Right.
It's that she's too scared to talk about it, but then at the same time she has to talk about it.
I think she kind of puts up this wall, and she's like, I'm not going to go there. I have to be strong for my family, and, you know, what family is left, because she's the caretaker, and she's the bringing home the bacon, you know, like literally. she's the one that has to take care of her family because her mom is just not stepping up to the plate.
Exactly. So if she doesn't explain it anyway, it right down to this whole sad story where she was saying, I love my father. He was the perfect man. I looked up to him. She can't say it because they're saying that this is defamation of my character.
Yeah.
Saying that this is not who I am. I need to be the strong person for my family so that they can look up to me.
Yeah.
Especially for Prim, who is just 12 years old and who looks up to her older sister.
Yeah, definitely. The government is introduced as corrupt as the peacekeepers are a part of the government, and this is a passage. Turn a blind eye to the few of us who hunt because they're as hungry for fresh meat as anybody is. This one line brings up a lot about, this one line brings up the plot line of the series and later how they rebel against it. So this is first where they bring it up. And later in the chapter, Katniss refers to her younger years where she would blurt out things against the Capitol. And I thought that this kind of foreshadowed how she will rebel against the Capitol in the Hunger Games. When her and Peter take the Nightlock berries and place them in their mouth. Kind of how we start seeing how the government is corrupt. And even in this first chapter, we're seeing how the whole plot kind of is starting to unfold, and there's so much packed into this first chapter while still having it flow nicely and being an easy read. It's not difficult.
Even when Katniss she explained the reaping, but it's still, the question is still rising in our heads, well, you're talking about this corrupt state of your Panem. What is the reaping? And maybe you can find the connection to maybe the reaping.
Right, you can kind of start seeing how they're tied together and how, like, the beginning is kind of giving you all these details, and then the reader's kind of putting them together. All right, what does this have to do with each other? Why are they in the woods? What is this reaping? Like, the government, like, it's all kind of coming together.
And that's kind of how her and Gale had that connection, because Gale was definitely not fond of Capitol or Panem either.
Yeah, she even said in the first chapter that, he would just kind of
shout things out
in the woods, and she kind of was like, well, what's the point of that? That's not going to get us anywhere. But, she said it's better him do it there than, in the district.
Exactly.
So Katniss goes on talking about how only the bold trespasses into the woods because of the predators and threat from the peacekeepers. And then she goes on explaining how her family live in the poorest part of District 12 called the Seam, and they struggle to get by with little food. And a side note, District 12 has around 8,000 residents, which was mentioned a little bit later in the chapter, but it kind of fit in here. So, yeah, I thought it's bigger than I imagined. I thought, like, when I first read it, I didn't see that detail. So I was thinking there was more like, I don't know, like 2,000 or something. What were you thinking?
I was thinking, basically, if Panem is supposed to be surrounded against the whole North America.
That's true, yeah.
So, obviously, I was thinking there's going to be more in District 12, especially if there's a lack of food, because there's so many people that they cannot feed everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the first time I'm reading this too.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
It makes sense, but while reading it, I never thought of it as 8,000.
No, I thought there was going to be definitely a lot more.
You thought there was more? Okay, I thought there was less. So there's definitely, different opinions out there.
But it also can show, like, Katniss, how these 8,000 residents, they seem to be really close together.
Yeah.
Because they're all trying to do the best they can.
And physically, they're probably close together. They don't probably have big yards like most of us do. They're all kind of packed in there.
And that's how Katniss comes familiar to get all the food that she needs. She's friendly with the mayor of the district.
Right.
So that's
his daughter kind of more. I mean, I guess.
Yeah. So it's just, that's surprising to read, but also it's kind of understandable.
Right. Since there's, 12 or 13 districts, whatever they said, there was 13 and one was obliterated. So, yeah. And it also shows kind of going back to how she said only the bold go into the woods. And she basically, like, you get the feeling from the book that it's really only her and Gale that go into the woods. Like, others will go into the meadow, always within sight of District 12, but I think her and Gale are 2 people out of 8,000 that go hunting. Like, that's what I would assume. Would you assume the same? Yeah. So that also shows part of her character. Her and Gale are very strong, very bold. They're not afraid to kind of put themselves out there and risk their own lives for their family. I think for them, it's all about their family. And
that's a quality that Katniss used, or like an aspect that she used to survive in the arena. She's saying that I'm doing this for my family.
Yeah, and her whole aspect and attitude in the Hunger Games was, I can't die for my family. Not because of her. She's they're both very selfless people, I think, you know.
Yeah, she's no way conceited.
Yeah. I think
She-
she's one of the most selfless characters I've read, you know, in
Yeah.
all reading and
And I think the whole Peter getting picked for it is also a good tactic too for him. He's
Yeah.
good with being in the woods as well, but I think Gale would have been a better match.
yeah, he
Because
definitely would have
They would have
survived better.
stuck together.
Yeah.
And personally, I think Gale would have had no problem doing. I think Katniss and Gale would have no problem doing the romance thing
Yeah.
because she's known him, and obviously.
But even like, I mean, I start talking about actually here how Gale is introduced as the only person I can be myself. The sight of him waiting there brings on a smile, and Gale is kind of conveyed as Katniss' solid rock, and it's her escape from the hard reality that she faces in her everyday life. And Gale's, I think they're kind of both each other's escape. And where was I going with this? I don't even know. Well, what were you saying before? Now I lost it. I don't know. You
I
were
was just
saying,
saying
oh,
that-
how Gale would be better in the woods.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they kind of both, here we go. I got it. How they're both kind of, they help each other, you know. So, yeah, that was my big point.
Well, what I was trying to say is the same that like if they were partnered together, they would form an ally, and they would.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So like, Gale would be a good hunter.
Yeah.
Well, Katniss is familiar with the.
But then you have the
bears
whole aspect of them killing each other. Like, they would kill themselves.
I think
You know?
I think her and Gale would have done the same thing her and Peter did.
Yeah.
I really
definitely.
think they would have because they're that bold to do that thing.
Yeah. They wouldn't be afraid to kind of show the Capitol that, hey, you're not the only one in charge. You know, there's, you know, all the districts combined are a lot more manpower than the Capitol, right? Like that's what I always thought.
Well.
Capitol's definitely smaller than all the districts combined.
Exactly, but if you look back at the rebellion,
Yeah.
it was
and how that
13
happened.
against 1,
Yeah.
and they still got destroyed.
Right. And so that kind of, you know, the rebellion whole aspect is definitely a huge part of the series. We're not going to give anything away, just it's a huge part of the series. So kind of keep that in mind as you, if you're rereading Hunger Games or, you know, as other books go. So, moving on. Gale's pet name for Katniss is Catnip, and so that shows how close they are and how the setting in the woods is much more relaxed compared to the district. If they were both in the district, he probably wouldn't call her Catnip in front of other people.
Right.
I don't know. I thought that kind of showed how the woods is their getaway, and you know everything's better in the woods for them.
Yeah.
So Gale is a lighthearted joker that takes the pressure off of feeding both Katniss's and Gale's family. So do you think that knowing everything you do about the first book, do you think that Gale thinks of Katniss as more like a sister or love interest?
I would think it'd be a love interest because if you remember, her sitting in the what was it called? It was probably in one of the buildings in District 12 that you go before you go off into the Capitol. Remember
Okay.
how she was with her mother and with Fred?
Right before they got to see their family before
Right,
they
and
left.
then Gale
the
came
game.
in and he was about to say something to her. He was about to say something to her,
Yeah.
and then he got pulled away. I was thinking that he was going to say, Katniss, I'm in love with you.
Yeah, that's the one unanswered question that I think every fan wants to know. What would have Gale said? If only we could find out, you know?
I mean, it's kind of like a kind of typical love story. You have the best friends fall in love with each other.
Yeah.
Because I think that's not what Suzanne was trying to intend to have. She was probably just trying to get the audience to think that, the readers. But then
Plant that seed in their head.
And then she introduced Peeta, which opened a whole nother set of feelings with Katniss.
And more complications, too.
Exactly. Because then when
have
she
a love triangle going on, but...
And through the whole Hunger Games, while she's kissing Peeta, she's thinking about...
Gale.
She's thinking of how is Gale going to react to this?
Yeah, because everything's on camera. I mean, I can't imagine that, you know? It'd be so hard, but... Yeah, but I think, I mean, they both kind of relate to each other like a married couple and trying to support their families, and Gale even jokes about, or more than jokes about, he's kind of serious about running away, but Katniss brings up they have too many kids to look after. So they didn't, and then she says afterwards that she didn't mean she doesn't say this to Gale, but to the reader, that meaning their siblings plus their helpless moms. So just kind of the way they're like, oh, we have too many kids, like they do act like an old married couple, you know, sometimes.
Yeah, they do act, well, I would consider
Yeah.
old married, because they do bicker sometimes, and they do have their little quarrels.
Yeah. And now, Katniss gets mad at him when he brings up having kids. And she expresses there's no romance between them. And she's kind of like, why is he bringing up this now? He's never done it before.